Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? It is Geoff, Mosher, and Adam Caplan. Inside the Birds continues because, Adam, the Eagles continue to go shopping. And if you're a cynical type like myself, you might say they've headed to Walmart.
Early, too. Usually these are done in the second week or later. It's been an odd free agency. A lot of bargain shopping has happened around the National Football League. It's not just the Eagles. It's usually these guys don't sign till May. We're not seeing that. I get it. There's a record number of cap space available to clubs. Some clubs don't care about the compensatory formula. Like, you know what? We like this player. He might be a good backup, but we want him now. And these guys are signing.
Yeah, and the Eagles are sort of all over the map with some young guys, with some veterans. We already talked about in the last podcast signing A.J. Dillon. This one, we're going to get into the three guys that they brought in or agreed to terms with. In fact, they announced them on Thursday, two of them at least. Harrison Bryant, the tight end, Josh Uche, the pass rusher, and, of course, Adoree Jackson, the former Giants and Titans corner. Now, before we even get into this, if you want a great tape-based breakdown of Josh Uche, that has already been done with us and Greg Cosell on the first Intel. What is it? The show, the Intel from Greg Cosell, right? Our show that's already out and up on the podcast platforms. The Intel with Greg Cosell. So we've talked about Uche, but we'll go through it a little bit in this pod and then talk about the other signings as well. None of these guys, we should make this clear. None of these guys are replacements, like one for one for guys who are lost. Uche is not Josh Sweat's replacement, and Harrison Bryant will not be a replacement for Dallas Goedert if the team does trade Dallas Goedert, and certainly Adoree Jackson is not the replacement for Darius Slay. Adam, these are good 1 year depth. Let me just say 1 year depth signings. We'll see if they turn out to be good.
So coaches will call these, if you ask coaches around the National Football League, like when you bring in veterans like this, a 1 year deals for cheap labor, so to speak, they're called in the mix. They're in the mix for a role. They're not guaranteed. None of them are guaranteed to make it. Though Harrison Bryant of the four probably has the best chance to have a significant role. We'll see, like you said, with Goedert, we'll see what happens there. But this is what it is. You're signing guys who are looking for work. They get a chance to play for a world champion. It's pretty cool. And after everything Harrison Bryant's been through in his career with Cleveland and the Raiders, he's probably pretty happy to be with the winner.
You would think so. And I guess you could say for Josh Uche, I'm sure he's happy to have a chance to try to rejuvenate his career. He once had a promising career, had 11.5 sacks his third year with the Patriots. Smartly of the Patriots, they didn't give him a huge long-term deal at that point, and it wound up he just never replicated it. He got traded to the Chiefs last year, Adam, and was so ineffective that they actually made him inactive for the last 4 games of the year, and then he played in the final game because it was a meaningless season finale, and then inactive all throughout the playoffs. I got to admit, I don't love Josh Uche, but I never saw that coming from him. I thought he was a good enough player and a good enough traits to at least make an impact.
All right, let's start with him. So, he's a stand-up pass rusher. That's how the year that he 11.5 sacks, it wasn't just those individual plays. He had really good speed. He's a smaller edge rusher, 6'1", 0.2 of an inch. But back that year that he had all the pressures, the juice that he had coming off the edge was really good. Again, he's a stand-up pass rusher. This is a better scheme for him. It didn't work with Spags' scheme. It just did not work. Never worked. They were down on him pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. It just was not. He was a non-factor. So he comes here looking for a role as a sub-package rusher or DPR, designated pass rusher. And this is a guy who was a former second-round pick out of Michigan. So it wasn't like they signed a guy who had never been good in college. This guy's had good explosiveness. It's not like he's old. He's just looking for another chance here to have a role off the bench. And the thing here, coming here, is they need somebody like this who's done it before. I know earlier in his career he had some injuries and so forth, but to me, it's just like at this point, he's just looking to revive his career, and here's an opportunity for him. We'll see what happens. And you really look at the Eagles depth chart, just overall, we know that Nolan Smith will be a starter. The Eagles don't know who's going to start opposite him. They're guys off the bench. You Bryce Huff, with nobody has any idea what his role is going to be, and that's it. So Uche definitely has a chance to contribute.
Absolutely, given the depth concerns right now for the Eagles, and even your starters are not exactly like 7-8 year guys. There should be an opportunity for Josh Uche to resurrect his career here. We'll see what happens.
Sure.
Harrison Bryant, I like your point. Of all the guys that they've signed, this guy has a chance to have a significant role, especially if the Eagles want to continue to run the ball, play 12 personnel. Doesn't matter whether Dallas Goedert is here or not. Even if Dallas Goedert is with the Eagles, this is a good number 2 tight end who can get in there and block for you when you need to be in your 12 personnel. He averages less than 9 yards per catch. That's clearly not his thing. That's okay.
But I wouldn't. Hang on. I'd be careful with that one. Look at the quarterbacks that he played with.
Fair point.
Yeah. I always tell people, be careful of making any judgments on a player. Mm-hmm. Remember when I told you about A.J. Brown, be careful thinking like that's all he can do, because when you play with Derrick Henry, which you pointed out when we talked about that, you're sometimes penalized with the quarterback play that you have.
Right.
Plus their philosophy. Early in Harrison Bryant's career, he was dealing with Nick Chubb being great before the injuries kind of curtailed him, and really not very good quarterback play. So until, of course, Joe Flacco went crazy 2 years ago. But overall, I remember talking to the Browns about him. Real versatile guy who put a little bit of bulk. He came out a little bit smaller than you'd like coming out of Florida Atlantic, but he had a monster final season at Florida Atlantic.
Yep.
Good. His deal was running after the catch, fairly athletic, had to bulk up a little bit. I get it. When you look at the yards per catch, it's troubling. But again, let's see what happens if you give a guy a chance to play with a common quarterback like Jalen Hurts.
It's a really fair point. I think he was an All-American his last year at Florida Atlantic. He caught 65 passes for over 1,000 yards. He averaged, for his 4-year career at Florida Atlantic, over 14 yards per catch. So clearly his pro resume so far tells a different story than his college resume. So you're right. Maybe this becomes one of those really, I'm not going to relay everything to Zach Bond, right? But maybe it's something that you got more than you paid for or expected because you had a better environment. That would be a great best case scenario for the Eagles. At worst case scenario, we know he can block. And so that's good. That's what the Eagles need. And he's younger, a lot younger than Uzomah.
Yeah. And look, he is not, to be clear, he's not Goddard as a blocker, but he's fine. Okay. Right. He's fine. But it just, you remember now, Watson had been his quarterback since 22. Well, not all the time because Watson was hurt, but it's a tough deal, man. Watson was horrendous when he got there. Jacoby Brissett is an okay veteran. It's just you're a victim sometimes of who you're playing with. And last season with the Raiders, the problem is, that situation. I'm sure he didn't know they were going to draft Brock Bowers. That what can you do? So look, this is a nice signing, and I just want to give you a really cool nugget. So now I remember the whole story. So for Sirius XM NFL Radio, we usually have a Super Bowl dinner, and I knew Charlie Weiss a little bit. It just so happened I was sitting next to him for that draft. What was it? What year did he come out? 22, 21,
2020.
20. Okay, whatever year it was. So, or it was either that year or the year after his rookie season. Anyway, now his son was on the coaching staff at Florida Atlantic, but he explained to me why he liked Harrison Bryant so much, because I remember distinctly him telling me he does everything, like run after the catch, willing blocker, pretty good athlete. He's just a little smaller than you'd like, and he played it, not in the greatest program, but I get it. Like his son coached there, so obviously he's going to be a little bit biased. But I knew Charlie well enough to kind of, hey, come on, what's the catch? He goes, no, there's no catch. He just broke him down like a coach. I was like, okay. And we saw flashes early in his career, but never quite saw what Charlie was looking for but there's something there with this guy.
That's great intel. I like that. Also, he was the Mackey Award winner his last year.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah, wow. He won the award for the nation's top tight end. I'm telling you, there might be something to this signing. Might be one of those you got more than you thought.
Yep.
You put him in a better environment, better coaching, better talent around him, better quarterback, all of that. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm bullish on this move. They haven't played a game. He may turn out to suck. Who the hell knows?
Exactly.
But let's put it. No offense to Grant Calcaterra, Bryant's a much better football player. He just is. and Grant doesn't block very well. He could run. He's undersized, and on your point, to finish this off before we move on, this has zero impact and them drafting a tight end early. It had nothing to do with it. This is just a guy on a 1-year deal, a prove-it deal. It's cheap labor again. This is the way it is, and I'm interested to see what this kid looks like in OTAs when Andrew and I are there, and hopefully you go.
Yeah.
But this is it's a fascinating signing. I wanted to make sure I talked about it last week because I had pretty good intel on the guy, and give the Eagles credit. They got him, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I should mention you were bullish on Harrison Bryant when we did our guys to keep an eye out on for who would be good for the Eagles, and I was on A.J. Dillon. So 2 for 2 for us in that department there. The last guy we're going to talk about, and I got to be honest with you, I'm still kind of scratching my head over this one. I get that the Eagles need cornerback depth. Adoree Jackson, who did not even start too many games for the Giants last year, and we know the Giants weren't very good. It's not that I'm against the signing or anything. They need some depth, but I would have thought you could have probably signed a player of his caliber a little bit after that period where you're not giving up compensatory picks. I mean, I don't know. I don't have any inside knowledge of that. I don't know if that's – I don't have high expectations for
the money – here's the thing, though. The money is so low. In fact, just to give you an idea of how – we haven't got the breakdown, but I have access to what exactly he got last year with the Giants. Let me see if I can pull this up here. Give me 30 seconds here. Yeah.
By the way, while you pull that up, I mean, he started 5 games for the Giants last year. The Giants are not good. I mean,
I know. He's had a number of injuries. Now, the Eagles used to really like him. In fact, they were one of the years they were in the sweepstakes to sign him, and the Giants got him.
Yep.
But last year, Adoree Jackson re-signed for 1 year. And here is his contract. It was 1 year, $1.75 million, and there was no guaranteed money. So obviously, he shouldn't. And you just mentioned he turns 30 in September. He shouldn't even get that. So along the line of all of these signings, someone joked to me earlier today that these 5 guys that they signed might total less than $10 million in cash.
Oh my God!
I think it will, based on what we've heard.
I would believe that. I could definitely believe that. I mean, he'll go to camp, he'll compete. Yeah. Again, there's opportunity as we sit here and talk about it right now because they lost 2 corners. They lost Slay and they lost Isaiah Rodgers, so they have to rebuild that position. But I would say, I don't want to get on this train, but like I would think if for some reason Adoree Jackson is your starting left cornerback for week 1, that's not a good situation.
Well, let's put it this way. He's very similar in size to Isaiah Rodgers. And obviously Jackson's much older. It's a situation where there's just an opportunity here. I agree with you. This would not be a good sign if he's starting. Yeah. That would to me, as we speak now, and obviously they're going to add more players at the position. Again, this move has no impact on what they're going to do going forward. Just a guy they've liked in the past. You see what he can do. But that clearly would mean Ringo did not have a good training camp. That would be troubling. Like last summer, wasn't that he had a bad training camp? He didn't. Is that Isaiah Rodgers clearly beat him out, and he beat him out pretty early. Yeah. So we'll see what happens here. They're pretty light at corner right now. They need to continue to add to that room.
I get it. Yeah, that's why I fully expected them to sign a corner that we weren't going to be excited about. I just didn't know it was going to be a guy with this long in the tooth and who was not even playing for a bad defensive team last year. So that's it. Those are the guys: Uche, Harrison Bryant, Adoree Jackson, and we'll see if the Eagles continue to make moves in the coming days. We just wanted to give as much intel as we had on these 3 additions. And again, stay tuned with Inside the Birds. We got everything covered. University of Delaware Pro Day. Andrew DeCecco and I will be there, so we'll give you the lowdown on that and any other moves going forward. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in the Eagles Intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.